The Sims 2 is not a horror game. However, when you turn off the autonomy of your sim and give it nothing to do, it does this. Not sure why this was programmed this way, but if I was a kid playing The Sims on my Windows 2000 PC in the dark and this unexpectedly happened, I'd be pretty unsettled. The Sims 2 for the DS is also loaded with unsettling things, with some people claiming the game feels like an unintentional or more terrifyingly intentional simulation of purgatory. For example, on the edge of Strangetown, you can find cows and a bull. Interacting with the bull is weird. The sprite itself is unsettling enough, and visiting it at night just gives this feeling of unease that's hard to describe. The Sims 2 is a non-horror game full of elements that are just a little bit horrific. The big, comfy couch. This show terrified me as a child. At the time, I didn't really understand why, but now I do. Being on PBS, it's not meant to be a horror show, but when you have a section of the show filled with uncanny-looking people in mascot doll-like costumes who can't talk. I remember getting this same feeling of terror when I went on a school field trip to go see Sesame Street live. We got front row seats, and the people dressed in giant costumes representing the Muppets from the show scared me so bad my mom had to take me out of the theater. I noticed it didn't affect everyone this way, but I was particularly sensitive to the uncanny thing. When a human-like thing moves in a human-like way, it terrified me even at 3 or 4 years old. This phenomenon isn't limited to just the uncanny, and it reminds me of a very famous example of a normal, innocuous piece of media turning incredibly eerie. This moment in Winnie the Pooh.
They're out, they're all about, they're far, they're near, they're gone.
Heffalumps and Woozles was a very weird interruption of a very historically innocent show that many remember being creeped out by as a kid. Hell, it still creeps me out as an adult. I've recently been diving more into games from my childhood and have recently realized that this phenomenon of normalcy turned creepy isn't limited to the old shows and movies. It has a very niche spot in games, especially older games. I want to dive into those moments and hopefully spark an old memory in you that you've forgotten, just as it did for me. Dog's Life was released for the PlayStation 2 in 2003. It's kind of an unassuming game at first with an interesting premise where you take control of a stray dog and complete basic adventure game tasks, solving puzzles, doing missions, progressing through the game. It's kind of a weird game, but early 2000s PlayStation was basically the Wild West, so we won't be too critical. However, what makes the game unsettling is the overall antagonistic plotline. You are being hunted by dog catchers sent by the game's main antagonist, Miss Peaches. And while this isn't too scary most of the time, there's a level near the end of the game where the tone of everything gets a little terrifying. You're trying to get to Miss Peaches to stop her operation, which, by the way, is to grind up dogs to make cat food for her cat food company. Yes, grind them up, as in kill them in a wood chipper and feed them to cats. This game is rated T in the US release, which is fitting, but I feel the need to point out that the EU rated this game 3+, which, according to my brainwashed American mind, is the ESRB equivalent of E for everyone, so like, what are they doing? Anyway, once you reach this point in the game becomes terrifying. You end up reaching the dog pound, and there are dog catchers chasing you the entire time, and if you get too close, they snatch you up in their nets. That's not even the scariest part. Just listen to the music of this level. Yeah, this would terrify me as a kid. And once you beat the game and reach the final cutscene by defeating Miss Peaches, she is sent through her own wood chipper device where nothing is left up to the imagination. Yeah, 3+ though. Give your 4-year-old this game, said the EU.
Miss Peaches is cat food.
Silent Hill, the fog, the tension, the excellent sound design. It has all the things that cement it as a classic horror franchise, a title it wholeheartedly deserves. Disney. Cutesy characters, bright colors, catchy poppy songs. How could these two things have any sort of crossover? This is probably the one you expected to see. Piglet's Big Game. This game is so unnecessarily unsettling to play. It was released in 2003 for many consoles and follows Winnie the Pooh's Piglet in a quest to overcome his fears. Just like in Piglet's Big Movie, the title the game is based off of. You go through different characters from the show's dreams and defeat a monster at the end to overcome the fear. By far the one that's the most unsettling, if you could have guessed, is Eeyore's. This level reminds me of Little Nightmares a little bit, but it predates it by nearly 2 decades. And to look at the developers, French-based company Doki Donkey Studio, this becomes interesting when you look at their other games. They pretty much exclusively made Winnie the Pooh games with a weird, forgettable Peter Pan game and an uninspiring Smurfs platformer sprinkled in. And the older games just don't have that same eerie feeling that Piglet's Big Game does. It's also their final game before the company went defunct in 2004. Piglet's Big Game's weird animation style, the third-person limited perspective, the dark levels, the quote-unquote boss battles where you input a sequence of buttons, leading Piglet to make extremely distorted weird faces like this, yeah, this would have scared me senseless as a kid. Also, the soundtrack, kind of like Dog's Life, constantly sets you on edge, to the point where, speaking of Silent Hill, part of it was literally sampled from Silent Hill 2. But yeah, EU 3+ rating, right? I'm keeping this one so brief, and as much as I'd like to dive into it fully, there's so much content deep diving into the similarities of Piglet's Big Game to modern survival horror, and I have some more obscure things to talk about. Obscure like Life Signs Surgical Unit. This DS game, released only in Japan in 2004, is basically a novel tech simulator with some very light gameplay filling the gaps by performing surgical procedures using the DS stylus. There are tons of games like this that came out to use the new at the time stylus touchscreen technology the DS had. By far the bigger one you've probably heard of is the Trauma Center series. This one though, Life Signs Surgical Unit, is fascinating because for how basic the production seems, how bland the characters kind of feel, how long it takes to click through dialogue, once you get to episode 3 of the story, your character meets a kid named Hikaru who wants to tell you a scary story. The tone shifts out of nowhere and the drawings become incredibly detailed like this. Each story goes all out with the artwork and is such a stark contrast from the bubbly, happy, bright colorings and sounds from the rest of the about 10 hours it takes to beat the entire game. This reminds me of close-up shots in SpongeBob where it suddenly gets way too detailed, albeit that is usually much more lighthearted. Life Signs Surgical Unit is not my type of game personally, but if I did play it as a kid, this part would have made me put it down pretty much immediately. I will say though, the soundtrack of the scary story part is good objectively.
Hey man, what'd you get?
I got a Game Boy Color. I'm like, nah.
The Game Boy Color was a cultural phenomenon. Gone were the days in the 1990s of kids sitting in front of the TV playing clunky big consoles, and the first widespread handheld game system took the world by storm. Beyond games though, it had some really interesting attachments, like the link cable to connect in games, most famously of course being Pokemon, the little light you could plug in for those late night dark drives, and by far the most interesting, at least to me, is the Game Boy camera. This was really cool. It allowed you to attach a lens to your Game Boy Color, and with another device, the Game Boy printer, you could print the pictures you took on thermal paper. This led to a really unique looking photo, black and white and very pixelated due to the limitations of the screen itself and the Game Boy software, but with enough detail you can clearly make out what it is a picture of. However, there is an extremely disturbing Easter egg that really doesn't make any sense in the Game Boy camera of all places. The UI of the camera is actually really nice, with a Pokemon-esque menu of various things to do with the camera. However, unlike Pokemon, why is there a run button? Clicking this shows you a picture of Africa with a message about crossing the equator. However, clicking it enough times shows you this, or this, or this, with some truly terrifying 8-bit music out of nowhere. All with one common theme. Who are you running from at the top of the screen? Luckily, there's no creepy mystery to be told here. These are pictures of a few Nintendo employees given to an employee that was, quote, good at doodling and made as a joke. However, this joke would unintentionally scare thousands of kids across the world. I'm not really sure what they were thinking, but the uncanny look of their faces, combined with the low quality pixel camera, combined with the music, combined with the jump scare of it all, none of these people must have had kids of their own. There's nothing more nostalgic than an early 2000s shooter game. This was one of the most popular genres, and all the games were meant to be over-the-top, action-packed, and of course really fun. Max Payne, a now huge franchise first debuting in 2001, is no different. Max Payne follows a classic action trope of former cop gone rogue to solve an undercover conspiracy, and it plays really well and is really well made as an early pioneer of the third-person action genre alongside the likes of Tomb Raider. It's no surprise it's still being made to this day. However, Max Payne is not a horror game, and there is a section in this game that on its own would be one of the scariest, the infamous nightmare sequence. This is a common element in every Max Payne game where you are thrust into a nightmare that ties into the story somehow. In the very first game, without context, this would come as a huge surprise. You're thrust into a dark, foggy maze that resembles the backrooms a little, filled with blood, a crying baby, grotesque shapes and weird things, and of course, a spine-chilling soundtrack. You have to navigate this maze and find what you're looking for, which in the first game is a diary. Now, Max Payne wasn't a kid's game by any means, but this was still scary in a game that had dark tones, yes, but not straight up horror. Something about the first one is very creepy to me, just thinking of not knowing and getting into that without knowing how to get out. It does a very good job of portraying and really making you feel the haunted cop character that Max Payne is, though. There's something to be said about something non-human making its whole goal to destroy humans. Think iRobot, Terminator, or Skynet, or the current future of humanity as we know. This is a commonplace in game AI nowadays, especially in the horror genre. However, there's an old instance of it that's so unsettling for reasons I can't really describe. It happens in Metroid Fusion. Metroid Fusion was released in 2002 for the Game Boy Advance and is widely regarded as one of the best in the series and possibly the best Game Boy game ever made. Sorry, Pokemon fans. It's just like every other Metroid game before it, a side-scrolling shoot-'em-up with the premise being that Samus is investigating a spaceship with weird shape-shifting parasites on it. However, you find out that Samus is infected with said parasite, known as X. And after supposedly being cured, you find out that the parasite that you should have been cured from using expensive, high-tech, fancy sci-fi DNA, anti-kill everything, deworming, defrosting, anti-freezing juice, it comes back and becomes the game's main antagonist, SAX. SAX is a one-to-one copy of Samus that mimics her actions like a mirror, except way stronger for some reason. And now, after that, throughout the entire game while you're still on your mission in the spaceship, SAX is lurking in the background, chasing you and appearing at the most unsettling times. This was the first time Metroid's creator, the legend Yoshio Sakamoto, had used a trope like this, and liked the concept so much that they reintroduced it in Metroid Dread with robots that hunt you down in the background. And Dread is the perfect word to describe what playing through Metroid Fusion is like as a kid. Like when SAX appears for the first time, you're met with this scream. First of all, this looks amazing for a Game Boy game, even in 2026, but second of all, I used to secretly play my Game Boy in bed, under my blankets past my 9 p.m. bedtime, and this cutscene would have shaken me up heavily. It's such a cool concept and is executed in a way that doesn't take away from what Metroid is, but my god, it makes the entire game tense.
And they called him Littlefoot.
If you're an 80s or 90s kid in the USA, you probably loved Land Before Time. It's hard to remember through all the fog of the last 30 years, but it was a cultural phenomenon in kids' media. I mean, the first one was literally put together by Don Bluth, George Lucas, and Steven Spielberg. That's crazy. If you're young or don't know about it, it's an animated story about a group of dinosaurs going on adventures and learning wholesome life lessons along the way. After the first, there were 14 more movies, a bunch of games, and even a ride at Universal Studios. But of course, we're going to talk about one of the games. A game that is so unassuming, I almost considered leaving it off. This is the Land Before Time Activity Center, the most 90s CD-ROM game I've ever seen in my life. It's a very normal kids game of the time with educational puzzles and stories that are obviously quite underwhelming as an adult. But then there's the Bramble Maze. The game suddenly turns into a 2D Doom-like environment where you're trying to collect 5 items to escape the maze. However, there's a T-Rex chasing you the entire time. You have no idea where it is. I'm pretty sure it's just at random points on the map, but when you encounter it, the music cuts out suddenly, and you hear it roar and come out of the brush, taking all your items and forcing you to start over. Then the music abruptly starts playing again like nothing happened. Now, it looks cheesy, but to those who remember being not used to computers yet and game mechanics when we were under 10, for some reason this was really scary. I think it's the overall concept of the unknown that I keep hammering home, like you can't see the T-Rex, but you know you have to avoid it. Plus the music cutting out adds an extra layer there. I don't know. Big scary reptile is scary. I saved the entire inspiration for this video topic for last. This is Ecco the Dolphin, a game from 1991 made for the Sega Genesis. It was a hard adventure game where you're a dolphin that's been separated from its pod and has to find its way back. The entire game is what you'd expect. Lots of puzzles, lots of trying to figure out what to do, and lots of game overs since it's a really hard game. But then you suddenly realize that you're not trying to find your way home, you're literally on this weird quest to defeat some alien queen terrorizing the ocean and trying to destroy the planet. What? I mean, it's such a chill game up to this point. A lot of people have said that they never even knew this existed as a kid because they thought it was just cool to play and pretend to be a dolphin. It's really weird and unsettling, and in the final boss against the alien queen, she appears on the screen as a disembodied head, but definitely implies the rest of her body is absolutely massive, hidden in the darkness behind the screen. There's that fear of the unknown again, and after this, there would be a bunch more Ecco the Dolphin games made, most notably the last one, Defender of the Future, which came out for the cutting edge at the time PlayStation 2, which of course meant it was a 3D game. It made it really cool, like the ocean graphics to this day look really nice, and it's a really well made game overall. But they still decided to use the exact same freaking formula as the very first one, turning a very chill and relaxing game into a Ridley Scott movie if Ridley Scott made an underwater alien film. No, not that one. Anyway, all of a sudden you reach a level called Lair of Evil, which, yeah, that sounds good. And you go down this weird portal to hell, like tunnel. Yeah, this is normal dolphin gameplay IRL. And then you, of course, meet the giant alien lady again in a level aptly called Chance for Reckoning. Yeah, I told you she'd be giant. Rated E for everyone, by the way. I'm sure there's someone watching this who got this when they were pretty young because your parents let you, since it's rated E, and it looked like a cute game where you go around the ocean as a dolphin. And then you gain the trust issues skill tree way earlier than most of us. What a weird game, man. Beautiful, fun, but man, weird as fuck. Old video games were liminal, empty, and experimental, which sometimes led to weird, unsettling moments in levels that we look back on and go, wait, yeah, that was kind of scary actually. What other examples of this do you remember? Leave a comment down below, and as for me, welcome to the post-Minecraft era of Paladin Ryan. If you enjoy this type of stuff, please let me know, subscribe to see nostalgic themed content you won't see anywhere else, and I'll see you in the next video.